Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Coyote Man. Check it out. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Fret Rescue. Located in Southeast Michigan, Joe at Fret Rescue has over 17 years of experience as a journeyman luthier. From basic setup to major repairs and restorations, you can put your trust in Fret Rescue. Contact Fret Rescue via email at fretrescue@gmail.com. You can also find them on social media by searching for Fret Rescue, @FERTRESCUE. That's Fret Rescue. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans of Bands, and I'm talking to Ian from Coyote Man. Ian, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank you. You know, Coyote Man hit my radar at Oigs Fest this year. I
Indeed.
saw the name Coyote Man on Craig's poster, and I'm like, I wonder what this is, you know? And then you
Yeah.
guys started to play, dude, and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit. Those progressive grooves that you've got, the just really dynamic soundscapes that you were creating. I
Yeah.
was I was in love, dude. I was like, holy shit. And I think I went over to you that night and I said, man, I do this podcast, you know, if you'd ever like to do that. And so here you are. And
Yes.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for checking out our set.
Yeah, dude, like I said, it was killer. And I think I picked up the Relic EP that you guys had. They had
Yes.
the CD out there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I've been jamming that ever since because it really strikes a really, you guys got really interesting music. It's instrumental, but and I love some band. Like one of my most favorite bands is Earthless, and you guys have those. It's not the same vibe, but there's that just going off of these riffs and creating these soundscapes. And I think you guys do a lot of really interesting rhythmic things, even with definitely the bass and drums, but guitar is
Yeah.
also doing that, and it's just really cool. So anyway.
Yeah. I always, I, I always tell people like our band is almost like a movie soundtrack.
Yeah,
We kind of just we give you like a certain vibe. It kind of just takes you into different directions. I feel like with being an instrumental band. Oh, sorry, there's a car alarm going off next door.
all
Sorry
right.
about. But instrumental music's not for everybody.
Yeah,
People that like it and dig it, they understand us. From time to time, again, we still get people that will come up to us and they'll be like, "Man, that was a great set. You ever think about getting a singer?" I mean, we've been hearing that for years now. I mean, back in the day, we had a couple singers before
oh,
we were
okay.
Coyote Man.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm jamming with Augie and Renee since high school. We've known each other for a really long time. So,
awesome.
back in the end of high school, right out of high school, we had a couple singers here and there, but they never worked out. It just never really fell through with that. And
Yeah,
then, years later, we always kept in touch, and we would always jam here and there. And then we kind of just started jamming instrumentals, just for fun,
awesome.
just having a good time because we always had that connection and we were still passionate with music. And then back in 2015, we got back together and we're like, you know what? We owe ourselves an album. That's the least we can do is like let's
Yeah,
just make an album, and then that if that's all we can do, great. If
right.
not, cool too. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
And then we wrote music for 2 years straight for our first album, which came out in 2017.
okay.
And then it started with getting a couple shows here and there, and we were like, whatever.
Yeah,
um, a few of us didn't really want to do shows, so we didn't really take it to the extreme. But then we started getting more offers, and then a lot of our other friends are in bands, and they'd be like, "Hey, you guys want to open for us?" And we're like,
right,
"Yeah,
right.
sure." So
Yeah,
that kind of just but we just kept at it, and to this day, it's almost been our 10-year anniversary as a band will be next year.
yeah.
So we're just still doing it.
That's awesome.
We're all about 40 years old now, but we still have the passion, we still have the dedication, and
Yeah,
we're trying to play it everywhere. you know, as you know, it's hard nowadays. I would say
Oh, for sure.
especially ever since COVID hit. You know,
Yeah.
obviously the music scene has changed a lot since then, and even just to get people to come out to a show is
Yeah.
hard. You know, unless you're a bigger band and you're on a label or something.
Yeah.
Um, but to be honest, we've been getting bigger and better shows. You know, for just being a local band still.
Yeah.
So which is good, you know, like definitely I think we were Chicago, you know, the city of Chicago knows about Coyote Man now. I think we finally like made ourselves pretty aware of a lot of the events and stuff, which is great, you know, but we need to start, touring more East Coast, West Coast.
Right.
I mean, we've done a bunch of Midwest stuff, you know, obviously like Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, but you know, other than that, we haven't really done much. And again, it costs a lot of money and all that. But
Yeah.
next year, you know, we're working on this next album, and
Oh, cool.
we're gonna be fighting for vinyl. We're gonna put this next
Oh,
record on
dude, that'll be
vinyl,
so good.
no matter what it takes. It's I know it's gonna be a lot, but we're putting all our energy into this next album. So we've just been just writing. I mean, literally, it's almost been it's been about almost 3 years since our
No
last
shit.
release of
Oh,
music.
yeah, that's right.
It's been a while, so we've been just playing a lot of shows. I mean at least, you know, 1 or 2 shows a month for us is like a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, we're writing music, but then we got a show to prepare for, so we got to
Right.
stop writing and then just start practicing the set. And then, you know, we kind of have to like put on the brakes with writing, but now we're like, okay, so now
This is
till the
it.
year, yeah, we're hoping that we could just finish these songs, because we got a handful of new songs right now, and I would probably say early next year we're probably going to get into the studio, and record this next record. So
Oh man, that's fantastic.
yeah,
That's good news, man, because I've been definitely addicted to the whole catalog, you know, starting with the first Coyote Man uh, album and then working my way through, including the one that I picked up, the Relic. It's
yeah.
and then what was the um, shoot? What is it? That most recent tune.
Oh, we're the Adversary.
Yeah, We're the Adversary.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
love that thing. It's so
yeah.
good.
That was our last like kind of single. You know, it's putting out music now is so it's just different. You know, a lot of bands will put out, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 singles
Right,
first,
right.
and then they'll put out the album. You know, nowadays, especially a lot of the younger kids, they don't really listen to the full albums. I'm not saying all of them don't. I'm
Yeah,
sure some
yeah.
do, but you know, I grew up, you know, I've started collecting more vinyl now than I ever have, and I
Right,
always respected listening to the whole album. You know, I get the whole feel, the vibe of it.
for sure.
But now, you know, a lot of people will just, you know, they'll throw you on their mix of songs on Spotify or Bandcamp or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine too. But I just think it can be tricky when you're releasing new music. So, you know, with this next album, we're gonna hopefully do it in a respectable manner, and you know, whether if we put 1 or 2 singles out first and
Yeah.
then the album, that's probably how we're gonna do it. I mean, um,
I think
but
that's the way that, yeah. I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, I think that's what a lot of bands are doing now. You know, even
Yeah,
bands that are very much about the, you know, like you mentioned, the whole album side, the kind of that presentation, right? The band has thought through that presentation, and you know, definitely if you're a fan, you would want to listen to that and try to understand what the band's thinking of when they're putting that together for you. Um,
exactly.
but I know that, you know, there's, you know, we've developed these really short attention spans, and we can deal with, you know, well, hopefully 6 8 minute songs, but you know,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, some people are just like, oh, I need 30 seconds and that's all I
yeah,
got, you know.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's we've been doing that, like promoting these past couple of shows. Our guitarist, he's been kind of putting together like these little clips. I mean, we have so much footage from our shows and just at our practice spot. So like, you know, we've been like putting these little 20 to 30 second clips for upcoming shows, and they've been you know, a lot of people have been watching them and commenting and
that's
liking, and
cool.
obviously that like that's cool. But you know, like you said, like 20 seconds is all somebody needs. Like, oh, even if they don't know who the band is, they'll watch it for 20 seconds, and then
Yeah.
if our music sounds like something they would like, they'll check us out. If not,
Yeah.
that's cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you said, yeah, the attention span nowadays is it's not the same.
Yeah.
I always think of the movie Idiocracy, because that's what
Right. Right.
yeah.
But I think it speaks to the music you guys are creating when people are interested, right? So you create
Sure.
that just a little teaser, but it hooks them in because the music has power, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. The cool thing about being in this band, not having a singer, is when we're working on songs, for the most part, we try to change the parts as much as we can, just to not bore the listener, because
Yeah.
oftentimes certain parts could get repetitive and kind of like, okay, we get to the point, like, we're always trying to not be so repetitive. Even though, if there is going to be one part that's kind of the same, a little bit longer, we still try to make it interesting. Like, we'll
Yeah.
add, our guitarist will always add some sort of crazy effect on his gigantic pedal board. And if you listen to like any of our singles or albums, there's a lot of keyboard work in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Because Augie, our guitarist, he plays piano. So usually we don't hear a lot of the keyboard or piano parts until we go into the studio to record.
Oh,
So
wow.
like, that's always that's what's kind of cool when we're recording too. Augie will kind of surprise us, and then he'll add so much more to the song. We sound so much bigger than just a 3-piece, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we're starting to learn that too, and we're bringing that to our live show as well. Because just watching 3 guys up there jam, I mean, it's cool, but like,
Yeah.
we're trying to up our live performance, and just kind of get more interesting sounds, and just having some cool like backing tracks, to really give it like a really cool vibe. And
Yeah.
it just makes it sound that much bigger, it really does. And it's been going really well, so
Awesome. Very
yeah.
cool. Very cool. I wanted to give a shout out. We've got a fan on, I think, and it's Bill. Bill Taylor. Are you out there, man? I see you're muted, but just wanted to say hey.
What up, Bill?
Hey, how you doing? How's it going?
So, Bill, do you got any questions for Ian?
I'm a new fan. I saw you guys last week, and I
All
really
right.
dug the show. So yeah, I now own all of your stuff that you've got out, and I'm digging you.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. You saw us at WC Social Club.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for coming out,
Yeah,
man.
me and my son were there. Yeah, and yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you checking out our set.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
well, Bill, I'm with you because I saw these dudes once and I was like, holy shit, I got to get some more Coyote Man.
I always tell my son, I stress to my son the importance of getting early and seeing the opening bands.
Oh, hell
Because
yeah.
you never know what you're gonna like, until
100%.
you see it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I've made discoveries of music from going early to the show and seeing openers. And then
Absolutely.
and sometimes the openers blow the doors off of whoever's headlining.
Right.
Because one time I went to see, so this was way back in the day. I come from like a thrash background. I mean, I like all kinds of music, but I really love that, and that's what I used to play. And so this was early 90, like 91, 92, and went to go see a band called Wrathchild America. I don't know if you guys familiar with that band at
Yep.
all. But the opening band was Pantera. Who I didn't know. I had no idea who Pantera was. And it was Cowboys from Hell tour, and I was like, holy shit! And this is a small club, maybe 400 people. They were all on the stage, like a continuous pit, rolling around on the stage, jumping off during the whole goddamn set. I'm like, holy shit! What is this? Yeah. So you always need to go see openers.
Right.
Yeah, we have to get the party started,
That's right.
That's something we're learning too, as much as we get a little nervous, especially with the past year or two with these bigger shows that we're getting. We're like, we really got to like make a statement, you know, like really show, you know, or playing up in Michigan, you know, people who don't know who we are. You gotta just go up there and frickin' crush it, you know. I mean, not be cocky about it, but you just gotta be like, yo, I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna kick some ass today, and that's it, you know.
Exactly.
That's all. I try not to, when I go up there, I try not to look at the crowd at all, because you know that I have to just be focused, like just on my instrument. That's it, you know. Like, always check out the opening band for sure. Definitely, I've seen a lot of amazing opening bands over the years.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, how did you guys come up with the name Coyote Man?
So you know, coming up with a band name is it's not the easiest thing in the world, you know. But Augie, your guitarist, was talking about, we were talking about like different like gods in different religious backgrounds, I would say.
Right.
And he was talking about, basically there's like this old Native American folktale about this god, the Coyote Man, which was kind of one with nature, basically. And you know, he kind of like, you know, he grew the grass. He all of a sudden there was some rabbits and deer, and then a tiger, and then like it was kind of like he was the, I might not even be correct on that, but he was, and it's a Native American god that brought in nature, kind of grew nature, one with itself, one with nature, I guess. And we kind of stuck to that, and it almost sounded like a comic book character at the same time.
Right.
Coyote Man. But it just kind of stuck with us, you know, because at first when we've had a few band names in the past, but none of them really stuck. But this one just kind of stuck because it still makes you think. You know, so we do get that question asked, you know, sometimes, but yeah, it's basically, it's just like it's a old Native American folktale about an old Native American god. So yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. I always, I think it fits well because the music has, because it's instrumental, you can really make a lot of different interpretations. I kind of wondered if it was Native American influenced, you know, just because I know there's different, you know, coyote myths throughout the Southwest and West. So I was like, I wonder if that's it. But so it's cool.
Well, it's so funny because there's coyotes out where I live.
Oh hell yeah, we got them around here.
I grew up like on the kind of the south side of Chicago, and I grew up in this town called Willow Springs, and there's freaking coyotes and deer everywhere. I'm out in Tinley Park now, and there's still coyotes out here. Like I see them across the street, and I'll, like, you know, once in a while I'll text the guy like, hey, there's still a coyote. You know? So there's a coyote men all over the place out here.
That's awesome.
For sure.
So I'm curious about the songwriting. What is that process like for you guys? Is it somebody come up with a kind of a full blown idea, or do you just sit together and jam?
It's mostly just riffs upon riffs. Like, you know, it comes in many forms. But basically, you know, Augie will have like a cool riff, and then we'll just jam it out. Even if it's just like one riff, we'll go from that. Sometimes, you know, we have a lot of like older stuff, or even like B-sides that we haven't even, you know, finished the song yet. And sometimes we'll connect, you know, he might have a new riff, and then I'll be like, hey man, that riff actually might go with that other song. And then he'll be like, yeah, let's try it out. And then we'll try it out. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, other times, you know, Renee, our bassist, he'll have a really like groovy, he's been with this next album, a lot of he's been rocking with the riffs. Renee's really stepping up to the table with some really cool riffs. And it's just kind of bringing this interesting groove. Cause we always have like a heaviness, like obviously like we're all metalheads, you know, but we try to not always, we try to go into different directions, you know, whether if the song starts out, you know, more chill and psychedelic or something, it might go into something heavy, or it might be something super heavy, and then then it might go into something psychedelic. We
Yeah.
kind of switch it off, and it just depends on the vibe. But yeah, for the most part though, it's mostly with Augie's riffs. He'll, that dude's got riffs for days. So every practice, he'll be like, dude, check this out, and then he'll send us a recording. And then, and then as soon as I get to the spot, I'll have like a beat in my head for it. And then there's even times where, I'll be there before the guys and I'll just be working on like a drum beat. And then that drum beat might start off a new song, or, and then I'll record it and I'll send it to them and be like, hey, this beat's kind of cool. You have an idea, so it's a whole team effort. It just really depends on who's got a fresh new idea, but we try to record everything, at practice, because sometimes we'll forget.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it doesn't help either, because we all smoke weed, so just being honest. Don't tell the guys that said that, but it's and that's also part of how we come up with stuff too. But it really just depends on the mood. But yeah, Augie has just tons of riffs, and sometimes he'll even have just like a piano part. He'll have like a keyboard part and be like, hey man, this would be a cool intro. And then that will give a vibe of something. And then I'll be like, yeah, man, I'll come in with this really like soft drum pattern, and then he'll be like, he's like, dude, I got the perfect riff for that drum pattern, and then it's cool, man. As we get, a little older, we're just we're working better together than ever, just because we just feed off of one another so easily now. It's just like there's no like I said, the passion's still there, and we're still really creative, and it's really exciting when we come up with some fresh new material. And right now I would say we have so much material that it's just like, like we might have, like, we have already a couple songs done, but that doesn't mean that song's officially done. Like, we still might add a whole other part to that, or we might blend two songs into one. I mean, that's the cool thing about being in an instrumental band too, is you could go so many routes,
for sure.
And and it's hard too, because instrumental band, we have like longer songs, but the past few singles that we had, like We're the Adversary, that's like our shortest song. That's like barely 3 minutes, but if you listen to that song, there is tons of parts. Like it's crazy. We're like, man, this, because I remember when we finished that song, we're like, man, is this song, is it too short? Like, nah, man, like there's just a lot of parts, but we just do it in a very, in 3 minutes solid. That's just how we came out, it's not like we're writing punk songs where it's barely 2 minutes
2 minutes long. 30 seconds.
Exactly. But again, we craft it, and then we just make sure that hopefully it just doesn't bore the listener. We always try to throw just different elements there, and we try not to, I feel like with every band, you might have the same way or style of writing certain songs, just because you've done it before, so it's a little bit easier.
Well, it's an expression of yourself too, right?
Exactly. But now we're kind of finally like doing things differently, things that might not necessarily be comfortable to us, like when we first do it, because we're like, this doesn't sound right, and then we're like, well, it's not that it doesn't sound right, it's just uncomfortable because we're doing it differently than before. You know what I'm saying? And especially with like my drums, I tend to do some, the same beat in some songs, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I do this beat in that song, maybe I shouldn't do that. Even though sometimes the listeners, they would never notice, but as a musician, we notice, and we're like, you know what, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to do something different to surprise the listener, surprise myself. It makes you work harder, so I really appreciate that about music. It's fun. Well, it's a blast.
I was going to say it when you were talking about the variations and changing up the patterns that you've kind of affixed to yourself, you pretty much touched on it, but it's like you need to broaden your horizons sometimes, and like expand yourself and go into those uncomfortable zones to get like some really advance in your creativity, advances in your artistry.
No doubt, man. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's that all comes with being repetitive again. Like you just want to, I always like when we make a right turn, we have like a song that's like super like direct, but then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it takes like a right turn, and then it's like, whoa, where did that come from? Like
Right.
we love doing that stuff, and that's like well, on our EP Relics, we have probably one of our heaviest songs, Reaches of the Universe, and it
Oh yeah, that's an awesome tune.
starts out with like just it's crazy metal. I
Yeah.
mean, it's super fast, in your face, kind of like it has like a, I don't know, almost like a early like Anthrax vibe with Augie's riff, and then it slowly goes into this kind of psychedelic, crazy solo like midway through the song. And it's just stuff like that
Yeah.
that I love. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not keeping it heavy the entire time. I mean, we could do songs like that. We have songs like that where it's just heavy
Yeah.
the whole time, but we could still have a super heavy part, but then completely go a different route, and all of a sudden, it has like some Radiohead vibes, and I
Right.
love that. So it's cool,
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So, what was your path into music? What influenced you to want to play drums and to play in a band?
Yeah, great question. So my parents, they're like old school hippies. I grew up in a household of music. My mom and dad, they didn't really play any instruments. My dad would dabble on like random drum sets at the family parties, here or
Nice.
there, but
Yeah.
but my mom and dad went to concerts all the time. So growing up, when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, they would always be blasting like, Pink Floyd, the Beatles. My dad was a huge Doors fan. Heard all that stuff growing up, and that always interested me. And then my mom worked at a record store, and when Nirvana's Nevermind came out, that was like what, 91. I was
Yeah.
like in first grade, and my dad had the cassette, and I remember my mom coming home and was like, you got to hear this band Nirvana, they are just taking over. And my dad, he would take me on his errands everywhere, and he would always have Nirvana's Nevermind in his tape cassette deck, so he was blasting it constantly, and I fell in love with it. And I know it's kind of cliche because it's Nirvana, but
Dude,
that's
that album rules. It's
that
so
the album
good.
rules, man. And David Grohl's drumming on it.
Yeah.
It was like basic rock and roll drumming, but he had his own like flair to it. And
Yeah.
even at a very young age, I was like, I never really heard drums like that before. I heard
Yeah.
like, Ringo Starr and all that,
Yeah.
um, but that was it. And I played a lot of sports when I was young, so I was kind of doing that. And then I joined the school band in like second or third grade, but I just had a snare drum, so I was playing like really basic stuff, like Mary had a little stuff like that. And I was like,
Right.
I don't want to just play the snare drum, I want to full hit. So my dad got me like a really cheap he got me like a really cheap bass drum, and then he found like this floor tom on the side of the road because he was a truck driver, and he brought it home one day, put new skins on it, and it sounds great.
Awesome.
I still have that tom to
Really?
this day, and it is like probably the best sounding tom I've ever had.
Holy shit.
And I mean, it's old looking. I probably should just like repaint it or something, but it's super old. It's got to be from the late 80s, mid 80s.
That's cool.
So I was playing along to like Elvis Presley, the Beatles. My coordination wasn't great. Picking up the drums always. I mean, picking up anything to begin with is very hard, but you got to have that coordination.
Yeah.
So I did a little music in grade school, but then I finally I took some lessons with this jazz drummer for a couple months. And I was playing along to like Whitney Houston, and at that time, I was younger and I was a little closed-minded, and I was like, oh man, I hate playing to this crap. But now I'm just like, man, I love that stuff. Like R&B
Yeah.
is some of the hardest shit I have ever played, and I could barely play it now. It's
Yeah.
stuff, jazz, R&B, that's just, man, it's unbelievable. So he taught me a lot of coordination. So then from then on, I just kind of picked up and started playing, and then I started jamming with my old buddy, and we played all Nirvana covers. We had a couple of originals, but then we played your typical mid 90s stuff, early Green Day,
Yeah.
Misfits. I I was more of like a punk drummer. I did a lot of punk stuff. I've been in a couple punk bands. That's just like the way I've always played my drums, just like that fast paced stuff. I
Yeah.
was never like into like death metal or anything. I didn't really get into like metal until late high school. And I mean, and I guess, you know, you could, I mean, I wasn't even into like, Pantera or anything yet. Like I knew those bands, but I never really like listened to them. You know, I was in the new metal phase, you know,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that time. But like, you know, bands like System of a Down, even the first like Linkin Park album was really good.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff had an effect on me during my teenage angst years, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell
But
yeah.
then outside of that, and then once I heard the Mars Volta, once I heard that
Oh.
band, like right out of high school,
Yeah.
that was it. That changed everything. And that band that even changed the way I drummed, because I was getting into like Led Zeppelin, a lot of Bonham then,
Uh-huh.
but then I heard Mars Volta and I was like, these guys are like Led Zeppelin on coke. Like that's the best way I could describe it. You know, so that, yeah, I would say like when I was like 18, 19, I really started working on like just drumming in different ways, not just doing punk and, you know, grunge stuff, just listening to different types of music. And I was finally opening my mind more to, you know, to just to other music. And then it's just funny how that once you start listening to different stuff, you could bring that
Oh,
to the
sure.
table. You're behind the drum set, and then I'm trying to do different things, you know, behind the kit that I haven't done. So yeah, drumming's been a big part of my life. Yeah, since about third, fourth grade, I would say. So
Awesome. That's
yeah,
cool, man. That's
yeah.
really cool. So do you have any favorite drummers, any like really influential drummers that have stuck with
Oh,
you, or you know, somebody you've picked up recently? Because like you said, I'm sure it's an evolving craft where you're constantly trying to, you know, hone your skills and,
sure.
you
Oh,
know,
without a doubt,
master
man.
your instrument.
Yeah, obviously, you know, David Grohl, like I said, you know,
Yeah.
Buddy Rich, you know, John Bonham, Thomas Pridgeon, uh, Chad Sexton of 311. Man, there's so many, and that's what's cool about drummers is they all bring like their own style. You know,
Yeah.
there's always, it's not just like hitting drums. It's like, you know, that drummer because it
Yes, you
sounds
do.
like
Yeah.
way, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Danny Carey, of course, from
Oh,
Tool,
yeah. That guy's
you know,
he's in another level though.
oh my God. I just found out that he doesn't even play to the click live. And I'm just like, what?
What? Really?
Like that? I don't even know. He is from a different planet. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Holy shit.
Bron Daler of Mastodon is
Oh,
phenomenal.
yeah,
He's
that
a
guy.
beast. He's a
Yeah.
beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many good drummers out there.
I know.
Yeah, to this day, I still, yeah, it blows my mind with some of these drummers. So
Yeah,
I try to take a little influence, you know, when I can, but
for sure. For sure.
you know, just being in a local band, you know, I try to do my diligence and do my best when I'm up there. And, you know, if somebody gives us, you know, compliments, like it's a great thing to hear, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's awesome, man.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I love I'm a huge I would love to meet Dave Grohl and just hang out and have some barbecue with him because
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he seems like a really cool dude. He
yeah,
does.
he seems
Yeah.
like a cool dude. And, you know, when you were talking about Nirvana and his playing style, I mean, he hits powerfully. He plays
Yeah.
powerfully. So, you know,
Yes.
sort of like a Bonham, where you can almost feel the drum set crying because this guy's beating it mercilessly, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's so funny because like early on, because I hit my drums hard, and my old guitarist back in the day, he'd always be like, dude, could you not hit the drums so hard? And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm not, you know, like I'm not in
yeah,
like an orchestra band or anything. I'm like, we're playing some loud songs, you know, and he would
yeah,
always like say like, just don't hit it as hard. You hit it really hard. I'm like, yeah, that's how I like playing the
yeah,
drums, man.
yeah. I love it when a drummer plays hard, especially if you get a really good recording of the snare and
Yes.
toms. You
Oh,
know, a really good crunchy, you know, hard snapping snare. Man, so good.
couldn't agree more, man. That's one of my things now. When anytime we play a show, and you know they're we're doing sound check, and I swear my snare drum right now sounds better than it ever has. And I'm just like, oh my God, did you guys hear my snare drum? It sounds so good. Like my snare drum sounds good. It's going to be a good night for me usually,
Yeah. Hell yeah. So what was the very first, kind of sticking with that kind of origin story with your music? What was your very first record that you or CD or cassette that you purchased with your own money?
That I purchased? Oh man, good question. I mean, it would be cassette tape for sure. I mean, but I guess a cassette and a CD. That's tough. I would say with my own money, I know Offspring Smash. I bought that on cassette.
Nice.
That was one of the first cassettes I had that I bought with my own money. And then Toadie's Rubberneck.
Oh, that's a great album.
That was one of the first CDs that I bought with my own money. And
Possum King.
Oh my God, that album though,
yeah,
that's one of my favorite albums. Like,
yeah,
a lot of those '90s records, and even like a lot of these bands who only had like one hit, like there was like some phenomenal albums. Like people say like, oh, they're a one-hit wonder band, the Presidents of the United States of America.
Yeah,
dude, that album with Lump, that entire album is phenomenal. I listen to it to this day. It always takes it back to a moment in time. But like Toadie's Rubberneck, the Presidents of the United States of America,
Space Hog,
dude. In the Meantime is one of the greatest songs of all time.
Yeah, and that album kills.
That album kills, and even the singles in the '90s were so different. They didn't sound like. Oh man, there was do you remember the single? There's a band called Space, and it was called Female of the Species. Do you remember that song?
No, I
don't. It was on the Austin Powers, I think, first movie. It was like on the soundtrack.
Oh, cool.
And I think that song got really big, and that was on the movie. But that was like a one-hit wonder band. But that song is so bizarre. It's awesome. Like it's just like I listen to it this day. It comes on. I'm like, what is that? Like, there's just certain songs in the '90s that just they blow my mind now. Listening to them now, because it's just like they don't sound old or anything. They just sound like from a different world. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But yeah, man. Funny story. My first concert that I've ever been to was 1997 at the Metro downtown Chicago. Smash Mouth. Oh, don't laugh. Their first album, Fushu Meng, that was Walking on the Sun. That was the single.
Yeah.
Other than that song, that they were a punk band. All the songs in there, it was like straight hardcore punk. When you have a chance, I don't know if you like listen to that type of music, but listen to that first Smash Mouth record. That album rocks. People like laugh like, oh, I'm just like, listen to the first record. That's when I saw them, and my dad was like, hey, that record, that band you always listen to, Smash Mouth, they're coming at the Metro. They're playing for like $10.
Yeah.
And the ska band Bucko 9 opened for them, and they were great too. But that was my first concert, and they were amazing. They played that whole first album, and I listen to that album to this day. And Walking on the Sun's a great song, but like
it is a good song, yeah.
Obviously that's their single, but everything else on that record was like straight like hardcore punk ska.
Wow,
great album. Like literally, if you listen to it, you'll be like, "What the hell? Like this is Smash Mouth." Yeah. They were good. And with that first album, then after that, I stopped. So.
What was it? Around that time, there was another ska band that was sort of big.
Real Big Fish?
No, that's not what I was thinking of. Shit, I can't think of it right now. Yeah, I'll think of it after the fact. But I stumbled upon them and Dropkick Murphys around the same time.
Nice.
But Smash Mouth. Yeah, they had that one tune. And then I was like, it's fine, but I never really went to check it. So I will go check that out.
I highly recommend their first album, Fushu Meng. I mean, Walking on the Sun, to me, it sounded like a Doors song. It was very like Doors inspired. It had like the keyboards, the organs, like there was just something, it had that cool kind of like late 60s vibe. And at the time, when that came out, that was just, it was kind of new, refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
I remember it wasn't, we didn't, everybody now, we didn't look at Smash Mouth then like we do now, because they were like, they were just coming up. So when I heard, I was like, man, this is a really cool song. I dig it, and then when I got that album, I was like, holy shit, these guys freaking rock.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it, you'll be like, what the hell? Because all of it, they don't sound like Walking on the Sun at all.
That's
At
awesome.
all. They sound like it's almost like a Rancid vibe, Rancid with a little bit of ska on top. It's they're
awesome.
They were a great band. Their first album is fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic, dude. Very cool.
Yeah.
So if you guys, if you could take Coyote Man anywhere for a gig, where would you like to go? What venue? Is there a kind of iconic venue, or just someplace around the world? Where would you like to go, and who would you like to have on that bill with you?
Oh man, I mean there's plenty of venues I would love to play. Obviously in Illinois, the Metro. I mean we would love to play the Metro. Like if we all got to play the Metro, we could all die happy men. It's for sure. But I mean that's just a great iconic venue. I would love to go to Europe. I just to go out there in general would be fantastic. But to we're starting, and we noticed too that a lot of our listeners are actually from Europe. Which is crazy, and just having our music out there, and you get to see who's listening from where, and we get Europe a lot, so Europe would be great. Obviously, West Coast would be great. California, anywhere in California.
For sure. Especially out in the desert Southwest. That would be awesome.
Oh my God. It'd be fantastic. Like when it comes to like venues, just right now off the top of my head, just the Metro in Chicago would be fantastic. The Aragon would be awesome too, to be on the same bill with other bands, I would have to say Deftones would be insane. Would be unreal. We're very inspired by the Deftones. I mean, you could hear that. We get that, Augie and Renee, I mean, they were really big in the Deftones when we started first jamming back in the day. So Deftones would be phenomenal. Obviously like a band like Russian Circles, because they're probably one of the biggest instrumental bands out there. So that would be really cool too. Trying to think of any other bands that would be freaking amazing. I always try, I would love for us to play with more like jam bands. I know that we would be maybe a little bit heavier, but like an instrumental band could fit in with like a good jam band, like something, like Humphreys McGee or something would be really cool. There's this band called Sun Squabby. They're like it's like, man, they're pretty wild. They have like kind of like techno beats, but there's like a guitarist, a drummer on top of like these beats, and it's really wild. It's like psychedelic stuff. I mean, it's they play a lot of those jam band festivals, dubstep stuff. Like they're kind of in that, but they're just really great musicians. Like I jam them a lot, and they mostly just play instrumentals too. So it's just like just good music to listen to in the background if you're working on something.
I'll have to check it out.
They're really cool. But I mean, I try to find new bands daily. I know as you get older, you're just like, I don't listen to that new crap. But for me, I'll be, to the day I die, I'll be checking out any new band up. So
I think
Turnstile would be great too.
Oh, Turnstile, yeah. I think it's an important thing. Well, I know some people. I've got high school friends that are still listening to the same stuff we listened to in high school, right? It's like it's Maiden, and it's still Maiden. And it'll be Maiden tomorrow, which is cool, And I love listening to Maiden, but I think there's certain folks, like yourself, that kind of get. You have curiosity about music. You just want to explore that stuff, and I just Oigs Fest. There's I found you guys. I found that opening band, which I'm blanking out on their name. Just they were a punk band, but they were really good. And it's just like so cool to just have all that kind of variety, and
Yeah, very, very eclectic. I love, that's why I love, fests like that.
Yeah,
There's just, yeah. And then you just realize that there is so much good, different music out there, and people don't realize it. Like you always hear like, oh, rock and roll's dead or
oh, I
metal's
know.
dead, or you're just like, what? Like,
Yeah,
there's so many good. I mean, especially if you go out to a lot of local shows, there's
for
so many
sure.
amazing bands out there.
Yeah. Well,
And
we've
we're
got
that we grew up in Chicago,
yeah,
because there's just, oh my God, there's so many great bands that
yeah.
we've got to play with and have seen. It's almost like we're like spoiled a little bit with how much good music, how many good shows come through.
Yeah, for
Chicago's
sure.
Chicago's a big music city, and it keeps on expanding with more venues, and just it's unreal.
That's really cool, and then that's good to hear. I wish had a little bit more of that because
Hmm.
I'm in Ann Arbor, which we've got the Blind Pig, and we've got
Okay,
a few venues. Actually, Ypsilanti has got some more you know great small clubs that are coming up. But
sure,
yeah, it's kind of stagnant, and Detroit area some good clubs, but not as many as you would hope.
sure.
But
How's that Blind Pig place?
It's cool. I mean, this weekend's going to be awesome. They've got a friend of mine, Chris Taylor, who's in the punk band Mazinga for the
Okay,
last, well, this will be the ninth year. He's been doing this thing called Fuzz Fest. You guys
okay,
would fit into that perfectly. So it's basically a really eclectic mix of, like punk, indie rock, maybe a little metal, some psych music, all this kind of stuff for 3 days.
awesome.
Yeah.
Damn, that sounds great, man. Hook us up, man.
I'm telling you. And he does like back to back stages. So it's wall to wall music. So starts at 8. I think the last band, he schedules it fucking crazy, but it goes till like 2 in the morning.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
and it's literally every, like, side stage starts up, main stage it's constant. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just, jamming the whole time. But
Hell yeah, man.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll be playing back in Michigan sooner than later. I mean, we have a lot of friends up there, and we just played with Lucius Fox again.
Oh yeah, those guys.
Yeah, those guys are great. Because we played with them before COVID. When did we? I'm trying to think. We played in Michigan with them like years ago, and then we
Okay.
just kept in touch because they were like one of the only really cool instrumental bands that we've ever played with. So we've always kept in touch, and those guys are just great. We played a great show with them when they came up here. We played at this venue called Liars Club, which is a really cool place.
Nice.
And yeah, and then obviously Cavalcade. Those are our boys. So
Yeah. They're
we'll
awesome.
we'll definitely be playing with them more. And yeah, Craig Horky?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's done like all our art. So
Oh,
if
he
you look at
did.
Relics, that's
Yeah,
his art.
that's his.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought that was probably him,
Hmm.
but I
He's done
wasn't.
our art, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Your artwork is awesome. I love that artwork and all your stuff.
yeah,
Craig Horky, shout out to Craig Horky,
yeah. Well,
man.
and that's funny because before we started recording, I was telling you I'd been working on this 3-day event, which
Hmm.
is about gig posters, album covers, and stuff. And Craig did the feature art, so
Oh,
he's
nice.
done our poster for the event.
He's worked with some big bands.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
done like Mastodon posters. He did like the Queens of the Stone Age, I think last year. He did Blink 182 like
yeah,
this past. I was like,
yeah.
what the?
Just not. Yeah.
Like he's doing really well. Good for
Yeah,
him.
yeah, and he's such a cool dude, and yeah, his artwork is phenomenal, just
Yeah,
phenomenal. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, what else was I going to ask you? Oh, so related to Coyote Man and playing out live, do you have any like rituals that you guys need to do to kind of get ready for the show?
No, not really. I mean, back in the day, we might have like a couple beers. Well, at least I would. I don't do that anymore. I hardly drink anymore. Just because I got to stay fit. I got to be ready
Yeah,
to go. Like no, I won't smoke weed or anything. Like I'm fully focused.
focused.
The other guys, the other guys, they might have like a beer or something, but we don't do any like crazy rituals or anything.
Yeah,
As long as I got my bottles of water or like a Gatorade, like I'm good to go. I'll eat like a power bar or like a banana,
Yeah.
before I go up there, stretch out. Well, we've been stretching. I mean, I've been stretching every time. But the other guys now are like stretching, more. So just so we're loosey goosey when we get up there and we're ready to go, we're not getting any younger. So now it's like, okay, we gotta stretch out a little bit, so
Right.
for
So
sure.
do you remember, so think back to the very first time that you played out live, and then think of your most recent time that you've played out live. What are some things you've learned about yourself as a musician from that period of time to now?
Back then, I didn't really work on my drums too much. Like I didn't really care how they sounded, I mean, like I knew like the basic tuning of all of them, but I was just like, yeah, this is cool. I'm playing the drums, like,
Right.
I was young and immature, and I just didn't look at myself as a musician yet, I guess.
Right.
It was like, okay, I know how to play the drums. That's it. So to me, it was just like an outlet. It was just fun. But now it's really focusing on how my drums sound live, making sure that, especially when we get like a sound check, making sure that everything is tuned, as good as it can be. And like I said, like I've been addicted to like how my snare's been sounding more than ever. So I'm like really like all about my snare drum. But just making sure. And then I've upgraded recently to DW finally. So I'm really, really happy with the new kit that I have. So I've just been making sure that, it's sounding to its best ability, and that, and also, well, now, I play with in-ears. So I'm listening to a click track when I play. I never did that until up to a couple of years ago. And actually, actually about a year and a half ago is when I kind of, probably right around the pandemic, right after the pandemic, I started wearing in-ears. Before, when we were playing, there'd be times where, I'd be rocking out and I might be going a little too fast.
Yeah.
So, my guitarist would be looking at me and he'd be like, hey man, slow down. So like, so that, that was always kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say it was an issue, but it did kind of take a little bit out of the song sometimes. Because I think musicians have different opinions on this. I think, before, because when I first started learning the click, I hated it. It's a whole other thing. It's not like, you're not just playing the drums now, but you have to play to a specific speed for specific songs.
Yeah.
So when we recorded that first album, that right before that album, I just learned how to do the click. So everything we've recorded, I played to the click. But I didn't take that live until about a year and a half ago.
Right.
And then ever since I've been playing live to it now, it is like a huge change, and we sound tighter and better than ever. Like that's just, I mean, it's true. That's just the way it is. And so, now it's like, if now, before, if I was going too fast, it'd always be my fault. Now it's like, if the guys screw up, it's on them. I'm like, hey man, I'm playing to the beat. If you guys mess up, it's on you now,
Right.
So, which is cool. So but it keeps me, I don't really know a better word, but it's like feeling more mature behind the kit. Like I don't know, because I know that certain musicians would be like, oh, screw that, man. You can't go wild. It's not as organic. And, I'm a big like Frank Zappa fan too.
Yeah.
And, Frank Zappa even said like, what's the point of playing the same set every night, to a certain speed or degree? Like, Zappa would play his shows differently every night. It wouldn't be the same ever,
Right.
So, which I understand. I get that. But but now, I mean, it's 2024 now, and I've learned a lot now playing to the click, and now like it helps with my drumming. It really does. And even if I go off time a little bit, I could fall right back into that speed, and people don't notice, like I'll know at the end of the show. I'm like, oh man, I screwed up that one part.
Yeah.
And, I'll be shaking my head, and, my wife will be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Oh man, I messed up this one part." And she's like, "Even notice?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you wouldn't notice, but you know." So, but yeah, there's something like, it just, I don't know what it is. It's like,
Like a focus.
yeah, it's a different focus than just hitting the drums. It's just like, okay, I'm listening to the speed now. And yeah, there's just, and now I'm so comfortable with it, and it's great.
Yeah.
I've been having a really good time with it. So, and then obviously with like when we're writing these new songs, for the most part, we don't like have a click speed yet until the song is like done.
Yeah. Till you've
And
established it.
then yeah, and then once we find a good speed for that song might change even more now, because we might have been playing it faster, but now we gotta, either hold it back, or maybe we have to play it even faster now. I don't know.
Right.
It
Right.
goes either way. So until you find that approximate perfect speed for that song,
Yeah.
but in the end, though, I loved it, and it was great that I was open-minded enough to learn and practice, and that's all you got to do. So now it's like it's no biggie now. I don't mind it at all, and now I'm the one that's like, all right, we're gonna play to the click. My guitarist will laugh at me, and because he used to say that, but now I'm all about the click.
You're a
Like, I don't know if we
convert.
can do that part because the click speed might be different. So it's funny, but I've learned a lot from it, and it's great.
Awesome.
It makes me just sound solid. I guess nothing's
Very cool.
ever off. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. Well, Ian, I want to thank you so much for being on Fans with Bands.
Yeah.
I've got one last question for you, and Bill, this is going to be a question for you too, and that is pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
Ooh, great question. So I'm gonna say pineapple on pizza, man.
All right, all right.
Um, funny story. Actually, when we were recording the last single, "We're the Adversary," a couple of years ago, our producer Dan, we ordered pizza one of the days, and he's like, "Have you guys had pineapple pizza?" And we're like, "Oh," and I tried. I'm like, "It sounds gross." He ordered it, had it. It was delicious.
Oh
I don't know if
man,
it was because it was specifically this certain pizza place that makes
yeah.
good pineapple pizza, but now I don't have like any hate towards it. I don't. I mean, I haven't ordered it in a while, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if somebody has pineapple pizza, I'll eat it. You know, yeah. I know it is a bizarre topping. There's a lot of arguments.
Right.
Great question, but I'm all for pineapple on pizza. Yes.
All right. Bill, how about you?
I love pineapple, but no, it doesn't go on pizza.
Bill, I'm with you. I think pineapple has its place. I don't hate on anybody that wants pineapple and pizza. Totally fine. But to me, like sweet and savory is not my jam. I like they put the
Have you actually tried it though?
I
Oh
it's
yeah.
been a while, and I feel like I need to open my mind up a little bit about it because I think I shut it down early in life and have not revisited because I think it's important to come back and revisit some things every once in a while just to make sure
Sure.
you're not being an asshole about it. But uh, I'm like I probably need to because I've heard like one of the good top like combinations is jalapeno and pineapple like on a pizza, which sounds kind of weird to me, but
Ooh.
I'm like, so I'll have to try it again. But my thought right now is that like Bill, it has its place, and an upside
Yes.
down cake or whatever the hell, keep it off the pizza. But
No, I'm with you. I was with you guys. I was with you guys until about 2 years ago when I
all
first tried.
right,
And maybe it was just specifically the pizza
well,
place that made it really
yeah,
good. I'm not
yeah.
sure, but it was
I'm
really good.
Ian. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
you guys have, yeah. I'm gonna open my mind to give it a try. Well, Ian, thanks again for being on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And hopefully we'll be up in your neck of the woods
Yeah,
within the next maybe the beginning of next year, depending on the writing process for this next album, and when because I mean, if we get offered more out of state shows, we're gonna do them. Because
cool.
we're sick of playing in Illinois. We've played. We're trying to like really keep it. Maybe like two shows a year in Illinois. Like we're trying that, but it's hard when
Yeah, somebody
you
says,
get
"Hey,
you
you
get
want to do this gig?"
yeah, exactly. exactly. So it's like, so we're,
Right.
but yeah, well, I'll definitely keep you posted once
For sure.
we get a
Yeah.
show.
Would love to see you guys again. And
Hell yeah, man.
definitely looking forward to the new music. That'll be great.
Hell yeah,
Yep.
man. Sure,
Awesome.
man. I will keep you posted on that.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Bill, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. It was informative, and I look forward to hearing the new stuff.
Hey, thanks, Bill, man. Thanks for coming out to our show again, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, hell
good
yeah.
seeing you guys.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Take it
All
easy.
right, man. You guys have a good one.
All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Many thanks to Ian from Coyote Man, as well as Bill, a Coyote Man fan, for joining me on this episode of Fans with Bands. Coyote Man blew me away at Oigs Fest earlier this year, and it was a treat to talk with Ian about the band. I particularly enjoyed hearing about how the band builds their powerfully nuanced instrumental music. Coyote Man is busy working on new music in between gigs, and it sounds like we can look forward to a new album early next year. See the show notes for all the details and links. Bands are nothing without you, the fans. Purchasing music and merchandise is critical to their survival. If you can help out your favorite bands, please do. If you're in Michigan, consider following the Playing in Detroit Area Tonight and SE for Southeast Michigan Music Facebook pages. They are fantastic places for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show, telling your friends, telling your neighbors, telling your family, telling your priest, tell everyone, and leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jam.